Malaysia is very unknown to a lot of people. Really the only reference that they think of is like the 1MDB or the Malaysian Airlines, the flight disappearing. But that's literally like the only thing that they think of when they think Malaysia.
Yeah.
Like this whole city is not known, which is crazy to me because this is probably one of my favorite cities on the entire planet, and they have these like crazy skyscrapers that are so unique. And one of the reasons I love KL so much is because it's just a very unique city. Like one thing, in my culture, it's very normal to hug people, or to at least shake hands. And then here, especially like with the Muslim population, they don't touch. How I speak, I really love, like one of the reasons that I love Malaysians is how they talk. I think it's so cute. It's just easy as well. It's like super easy to understand, and it's just quick. Instead of saying, yeah, I can do that, just say, can. So yeah.
Assalamualaikum, Elsa di sini. Hai guys, hai semua, halo tetangga, gimana kabar teman-teman semua? Semoga sehat selalu, semoga bahagia selalu, dan semoga hari teman-teman semua selalu good day. Selamat datang di channel YouTube Elsa Widianti Putri. Hari ini aku akan mereaction dari channel Max Sernov, di mana dia mewawancarai gadis Amerika atau ya influencer Amerika yang dimana dia udah kurang lebih 5 tahun tinggal di Malaysia. Jadi kita akan melihat bagaimana cerita di balik kehidupan 5 tahun di Malaysia oleh Amerika influencer ini. Nanti kita lihat sama-sama videonya seperti apa. Tapi sebelum dimulai video reactionnya, seperti biasa aku mau ngajakin teman-teman semua dulu untuk subscribe channel ini dan aktifkan lonceng notifikasinya supaya tidak ketinggalan update terbaru dari channel ini. Dan bagi teman-teman yang mau request, bisa banget DM di Instagram aku di @elsa_widianti_putri. Udah tanpa berlama-lama, tanpa membuang masa, jumlah kita mulai video reactionnya. Are you ready? Let's go.
Is a big issue. It's not government subsidized, so like you have to buy your own insurance and it's really expensive. After living abroad, like Americans for the most part are very in their own country. Like they don't really leave unless they're going to like Canada or like Cabo for vacation, so they don't really have a good understanding of different cultures. And so when I go back, it's just really hard to interact with people sometimes because my life is definitely different than theirs, and so they can take it as like I'm bragging about my life when I'm just like saying, like for example, like I work across from the Petronas Twin Towers. That's just fact. Like,
dekat Petronas di seberangnya dia kerja sekarang.
Building, and some people will be like, oh, that's really cool, and some people will just be like, oh, then walk away. I'm like, okay. Yeah, that's happened so many times where people are like, oh, like where are you from, like fully expecting me to say like a state in the US, and I'll be like, well, originally I'm from Arizona, but I've been living in Asia for like 10 years, and then they're like, oh. And then they like go silent, like they don't know what to say after that, which for me, I feel like if someone told me something like that, I'd be like, oh wow, like what's that like? Where have you been? What's your experience? But no, they just go, cannot comprehend. It's really hard for me to make friends. So generally when I go back to the States, I actually tend to make friends with the international students. Like I have some friends from Nepal, for example. Like there's like a whole group of them there. So yeah, that's my life in the US. It's like not exactly safe either. You know, the mass shootings, and like I get really worried like when I'm there, just like doing normal stuff, going to the movies, at the grocery store, like even just walking, like if a car passes by, like I'm like, so that's a lot of anxiety to have for an extended period of time. And the food is so unhealthy. It's good, it tastes good, but it's really like if I stay there for a long period of time, I have a really good metabolism, but I blow up like a balloon, like because they just put sugar upon sugar upon sugar into everything. Bread, they put sugar in bread. Not pastries, no. Regular loaf bread. So even if you're trying to be healthy, you get like whole grain or whatever, they still put sugar in that shit.
Kebanyakan gula kalau di Amerika.
When I was a student, like I spent like 3 months, 2 summer, like 3 and 3 in the state of Maine and in San Fran. I was quite surprised that the refill culture, when you go to, let's say, McDonald's,
the sodas.
You have a like soda, like already like cup is pretty huge. But then, especially for us, we were like students without any money. So a refill, cheap refill, like free refill, okay, you go for it.
But there's a price.
But then there's a price, it's a long-term price with your health.
Price to pay.
That's the thing. For the safety thing, okay, it's everywhere in the media, but is it really so dangerous? America is a huge country. Mass shooting is terrible, but it's like for 300 million people. So you get this anxiety probably because it's like all over. People talk about it, but it's not like a real thing. You know what I mean?
So I would say it definitely is a very real threat. Like my mom used to shop at this grocery store when we were living in Arizona. And one day she was supposed to be there, but she ended up not going for whatever reason. And thank goodness, because there was a politician there. She was at the grocery store and someone just right then there.
Wow.
It's a very famous case. She actually got shot in the head. She survived, but she had to like relearn how to speak and
nggak aman berarti ya di Amerika
and
itu.
Move properly. And my mom could have been there that day. And like, I know the guy was going for her specifically, but I mean, you never know. Could miss or So I would say like it was a little close to home. So I would I don't feel safe there. Personally,
Malaysia has this reputation for some people. I think it's a bit by mistake, but some people think Malaysia is dangerous.
I feel like Asia as a whole has that reputation, at least in the American media. I don't know how it is in the European one. I don't understand why Asia has this reputation, and I think it has to be some kind of propaganda by the Western media to just be, like, oh, we're the best and everywhere else sucks. Don't go there. One thing that I get asked a lot when I was living in Mongolia, China here, they're like, aren't you scared? Like, isn't it dangerous? And I'm like, dude, I'm more scared being here. Like, in China was so safe. China has its issues, but they have this like crazy surveillance, so that can be like a positive as well as a negative, I suppose. So, but in the safety aspect, I would say it's a positive. And Malaysia, is so safe, and people are so respectful for the most part. And I feel very safe here. Malaysia is really chill.
What other annoying stereotypes about Malaysia exist in the West?
Malaysia is very unknown to a lot of people. Really, the only reference that they think of is like the 1MDB or the Malaysian Airlines, the flight disappearing. But that's really like the only thing that they think of when they think Malaysia. Yeah. Like this whole city is not known, which is crazy to me because this is probably one of my favorite cities on the entire planet, and they have these like crazy skyscrapers that are so unique. And one of the reasons I love KL so much is because it's just a very, very unique city. Yeah. You can look at like an outline of the skyline and you're like, that's KL. Yeah. You can't, like Bangkok, for example. Bangkok, again, cool city, but you can't look at an outline and be like, that's Bangkok, right? They don't have
Spesial banget berarti Malaysia bagi ke ini ya guys.
That's like, like Paris or China, Shanghai, the Pearl Tower, like that. Oh. And the lake has a view of those babies.
Oh, wow.
And you can even like rent a kayak out on, and you can see all the towers. It's really cool. So I recommend you guys go and do that. It's called Titiwangsa Lake. Malaysia is like the Wakanda of the world. You watched Black Panther, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I think a lot of people feel that way. The locals, some of them, they like the fact that it's so hidden. They're like, don't come here, the jam is already really bad. And others are like, yes, come, eat our food, be happy, get fat.
Yeah. What's your best thing about Malaysia?
People are very friendly for the most part. The food, fantastic.
What's your favorite food, by the way?
Beef noodles at Petaling Street. I can never get the name right. It's like Sin Q Yi Shin Ki beef noodles. It's a really long name, but it's really delicious. And I also love kueh, which is a dessert. Glutinous rice and sort of like a coconut custard cream sort of thing. It's really tasty, and it's like very colorful as well. And I really like colorful food. I love something called langsat or doku. It has different names, and I still get them confused. They're slightly different, but they're sort of similar. And mangosteen.
Mangosteen.
You like mangosteen?
Yeah. I don't have it often, but yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I would say those are my two favorites.
Okay, what about durian?
It's sort of like a a paradise. You know, you can very easily go to like gorgeous islands, you know, untouched water, some of the like bluest water that I've ever seen in my life. I actually like how much it rains. Like some people, they get really annoyed with it, but I'm from a desert, so it's always a treat to have a rain. And so even though I've been here for 5 years, I really don't mind that it rains every day sometimes, as long as I'm not outside. And I'm not trying to like get a grab or something. Then it sucks. But if I'm at home, like, just having it come down, like loud thunder, it's very emotionally cathartic for me. And like I said, just like KL City is so interesting. And I also love the small towns. Like Malacca is one of my favorite small cities here.
Malacca is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
The architecture is
Malacca tuh
adorable.
banyak
The food is
sejarah ya kan,
delicious.
tempat
The night market is
bersejarah.
probably like one of the best night markets I've seen. And Penang has great
Night
food.
market.
Ipoh is like really has its own like charms. And yeah, and Malaysia is very affordable as well.
Let's talk about your TikTok journey. What's the favorite topics that you know that always blow up?
Recently, I made a video about how I compare Malaysian food to every other country that I go to, basically. And it went viral. News agencies picked it up. It was just my honest opinion, and it's true. Like when I was in the Bahamas.
I saw this one, yeah.
Oh, you saw it?
I saw
Yeah.
it. Malaysia spoiled you so much.
Yeah, like my mouth is ruined. I cannot go almost everywhere except for like maybe Thailand. Thailand has really good food.
Yeah.
But like I was in the Bahamas and I'm just like, this food. I cannot. But it's like even when I go back to the US, I only have like specific things that I like very few specific things I like to eat, and one of them is not like I would say a lot of them are not even American. Like my favorite American food is American Chinese food. I cannot get enough of the stuff. Even here, I love Chinese food. It's delicious. So yeah, to answer your question, I did that video, and it was sort of like a rant, but like a rant that I was being, what's the word I'm looking for? Complimentary. And so people really liked that, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So I started making more videos like that, just about like my personal feelings, but sort of like making it a lot more like exaggerated with my voice. Like I'll take clips and I'll like zoom in on my face and then like zoom out like when I'm trying to make a point, like trying to emphasize certain parts.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are they're really into it, and I love that. Like they're fun to make. I really get to show my personality with those. Sometimes I feel with a lot of the stuff that I do, like I can't really show my personality that much, because it's just, you know, like food reviews, for example, like you can show like a little bit, but mostly like you're talking about just like the experience of the food. Like it's about the restaurant, it's about the food. But then these, I can really just like say how I feel, but in like just, yeah, a really fun way. And I'm really enjoying making those videos.
We sometimes see that people like in Malaysia and Singapore love to see what foreigners think and say about them.
Yeah.
Is that the case for you as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Some people who are like, you know, why do we care so much about like what foreigners think? Which is like, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I get that. But at the same time, Malaysia is so lesser known that I think like they like to be appreciated because they're not appreciated in like the greater world. Even if it looks gross. But like when it rains really heavily, it can get really, really high. Like you see where that platform is right there? It can get like all the way up there, and maybe sometimes even further. When it's starting like very close to flooding, there will be like a huge alarm, and it'll go on and on and on. But it'll be speaking in Malay. So when I first heard it, I had no idea what they were saying. So I put it on my story and I was like, guys, should I be worried? It's a giant alarm. I think I should be worried. And they're like, oh, like it's danger of flooding. So, okay, yeah, makes sense.
How much you pay for the room?
2.1.
2.1.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ringgit, yeah. You can argue it's pretty good. You can argue that it's
2.1
very
ringgit.
overpriced, but I did not want to pay a deposit anywhere because it cost me so much to get here.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I can see the towers when I fall asleep and when I wake up. The other interesting thing that I really like about this place is the closet.
Oh, wow.
This is actually Malaysian.
Yeah.
People tell me I look like a Malaysian Airlines stewardess when I wear it, but I just think it's really beautiful. I bought it for, I think it was Hari Raya to celebrate.
It is beautiful.
And This is a Nyonya kebaya.
What's
Nyonya
that?
kebaya.
Nyonya are the people from Malacca.
Did you have any like cultural shocks when you first arrived in Malaysia?
When I first was planning on moving, I was like, oh, I've lived in Asia for, I guess, 4.5 years. I'm like, I'll be fine. And then, so like one thing in my culture, it's very normal to hug people or to at least shake hands. And then here, especially like with the Muslim population, they don't touch girls.
Iya,
Like
boleh
guys
ya.
don't touch girls.
Laki-laki
But
menyentuh perempuan,
you as a
perempuan
girl,
menyentuh
can you
laki-laki
touch
kalau di Malaysia
Muslim
gitu.
girls?
Yes.
Like hug?
Yes.
You can?
Nah itu yang dia
Not all Muslim guys are
pelajari
like this,
atau
but
dia
I have
dapatkan
run
ketika di
across a
Malaysia.
few that I was just like put my hand out or like hug and they're like,
Anything else in terms of
No.
cultural shocks?
I live in the US,
Bukan
I live in
muhrim
Mongolia, I
gitu
lived
ya.
in China. I probably only knew very few brown people. So moving here, I had to, everyone basically is brown, so I had to like learn about that culture. But of course, like they're all different cultures. Like people think like, oh, like they look Indian, they like all act the same, but it's like no, they look different. Like if you've been living abroad for a while, I mean, people say like white people, like we all look the same. But if you are around us long enough, like you can tell the differences, and so it's the same here. So and I can very easily tell the difference between a Pakistani generally and like an Indian or a Bengali.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so some people, like if you misidentify, they will get, sometimes they can get very offended because there's a lot of like friction between a lot of these countries. So you just have to be careful about, stuff like that. And I just had to get to know like so many different cultures at the same time because Malaysia is such a melting pot. So I went to Monash University. It was just like, all at the same time. It was very overwhelming, and it took me a while, I think, to learn how to navigate Malaysia as a white person, because white people are treated differently in different countries. Like I would say Mongolia, we were like largely ignored. Like it wasn't like, even though like there really aren't that many white people in Mongolia, they didn't really care. They might like disrespect you even. It's a very big thing for Mongolians to just like, if you're standing in line at the grocery store, to just cut right in front of you. Like you're about to like check out and then they just go like that. And so we used to like be just very like, whoa. But then after you live there for a while, you just go and you like cut them right back and then they're like, okay.
Like in silence.
Yeah. And then in China, how they react to white people is like they're always wanting to like take pictures of you. And then here, it's like a 50-50 if it's like positive or negative. Some people are very, very friendly, but some people are really, really not. Or maybe they act friendly, but then they try and use you in some way. So I learned a very hard lesson that, you have to be very careful about who you have in your life, because some people will use me for a multitude of reasons, financially, or I don't know how to say this, but like they would use me for like street cred. Like if you hang out with a white person, you're like elevated in society. So people, they might keep you around, they might invite you around, but not because they like you, but because like they want to use you in some way. So there are some amazing people in Malaysia. I mean, I'm still here. I love this country, but you do have to be careful about that.
Is there
Dimanapun kita
something
tinggal
that we still
tetap harus
not used to
berhati-hati gitu
in
kan?
Malaysia? Or you miss, let's say you miss from the US, from your life in the US?
I would have to say like punctuality and getting things done. Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, how did they build this city? Because they put things off a lot. And sometimes like you'll need something done and then they'll just keep like the same mistake like over, and you're like, no, it needs to be done like this, and then they just keep doing it the way that they were doing it before. And just like the punctuality aspect of it, and it's affecting me. And I used to always be very on time, but now I'm just like, oh, they'll probably be late, so I should probably be late, because I don't want to be sitting there for an hour, and then it becomes like a habit, and not everyone is unpunctual. So like it's like a dance. You have to suss out like how they are as a person. So like I have to tell like different people different times for things, and then I can tell some people like the actual time, and the other people I have to an hour earlier. They're a lot more relaxed here. I think, and I call it equatorial timing, like being on the equator. Like you see this in a lot of tropical countries where it's a lot more relaxed. Like so, the bank here will open at 10 a.m. and it'll close at like 4 or 5, whereas in the US it'll open at like 8 a.m. and then it'll close at like maybe 6. And like in the US there's just this like this hustle culture, like work, like be on time. Always be creating something, whereas here it's a lot more like, oh, like let's go out to lunch. Let's take a break from this meeting. Let's go makan. So yeah, I'd say that's a really big difference between them.
You obtain any Malaysian habits after 5 years here?
Oh yeah, like I said, the timing for one, and how I speak. I really love, like one of the reasons that I love Malaysians is how they talk. I think it's so cute. It's just easy as well. It's like super easy to understand, and it's just quick. Instead of saying, yeah, I can do that, just say, can. And I love like the la, can ma, like, those little slangs on the end, and I just think they're really cute, and it's become a part of my speech subconsciously. And so people will get so, I'll just, we'll just be talking, and then I'll be like, blah, 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 la, without even thinking about it, and then they're just like, oh. Have you been here for a long time? Like, yeah. And then immediately they get really comfortable. So once they realize that you're not just like a tourist or a traveler, then they start asking you like a bunch of questions, and it's really nice. And I'm learning bahasa Melayu. So saya masih belajar.
Was it the language? Was it Manglish? Was it confusing for you as a native speaker in the beginning?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a lot. They make it's simplified. It's English simplified.
So it's just useful.
It's just like I use it in my class as well. Like they'll be like, oh, like can you say it like this? Can. Simple.
No, I use can every day. Sometimes I use it with my friends not from Singapore, and that's like, what did you just said? Can? What do you mean? Like,
I feel like it's so, there's no need for an explanation for that, right? Like, why is that confusing? I don't know. I haven't come across anyone that is really like, what are you saying? Maybe if I go like la, then they might be like a little bit like, I don't, and then they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, that is a great question. There is no translation in English. Like, it can mean like bro, it can mean just like an exclamation, it has a lot of uses. Like, you can literally put la behind every single sentence and it'll make sense.
Iyalah.
It'll make sense lah.
Dia mau belajar budaya Malaysia, dia mau belajar bahasa Melayu Malaysia gitu. Dan dia mengatakan bahwa ada culture shock yang dialami ketika dia pertama kali ke Malaysia gitu kan. Nah, kita tahu bahwa budaya barat itu kalau ketemu, hai bro, salaman, cipika-cipiki, pelukan gitu kan. Kalau di negara Malaysia, dia harus menghentikan itu, menghilangkan kebiasaan itu, karena di Malaysia mayoritas muslim dan dia baru tahu akan hal itu, dan dia baru tahu kalau di Malaysia itu nggak boleh berpelukan, nggak boleh pegangan tangan, cipika-cipiki, perempuan laki-laki gitu. Nah, hal itu yang dia pelajari, kebudayaan Malaysia yang dia pelajari selama tinggal di Malaysia itu. Dan juga beberapa hal yang dia sebutkan tentang keamanan, kenyamanan, rasa ketenangan yang dia rasakan. Mungkin di Amerika dia jauh lebih cemas, jauh lebih hati-hati gitu kan. Nah, kalau di Malaysia dia tidak perlu melakukan kecemasan yang berlebihan, tapi tetap dia bilang hati-hati dimanapun tinggal, dimanapun berada. Nah, dia juga udah beberapa kali tinggal di bagian Asia juga, tapi dia mengatakan di video bahwa Malaysia, tepatnya di Kuala Lumpur, menjadi negara favorit dia sejauh ini. Oke, jadi begitulah cerita di balik kehidupan seorang Amerika influencer ketika tinggal di Malaysia. Untuk video kali ini cukup sekian. Bagi teman-teman yang suka sama video ini, jangan lupa untuk like, komen, dan subscribe. Dan kita ketemu di next video. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.